So we're here on location, Oro Brewing site, or home of the Brewery of the Year, as determined by the Arizona Craft Beer Awards and Festival. Jesse and Dave, brewer and owner, thanks for being here, guys. What does it mean to be the Brewery of the Year? And are you guys looking for a repeat in 23?
You want me to field that one?
You can go first. That's fine.
Actually, it was an amazing honor. We were super stoked to find out about it. Kind of amazed because we're just a little brewery in Downtown Mesa, and to have that award was just something else. I mean, it was like beyond what we've experienced ever.
I mean, you guys went, so to remind people, you guys went 3 for 3 entries, 3 gold medals. You also had a silver medal at the World Beer Cup in 2022, a gold medal in the Great American Beer Fest. Can you guys keep track of all these awards right now?
Yeah, it was a crazy year last year. Yeah, I think the special one to us is still, I think, going to be the Arizona one.
Oh yeah,
because we just, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the breweries and brewers and, business owners and, in this community and everything like that. And, I thought we would do well. I didn't think it would be that well. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was an awesome night.
Yeah. To be recognized among your peers like that, and to have it as a blind test, tasting and all that, cements the fact that, Jesse's been cranking out some really awesome brews.
Yeah. And Jesse, do you feel pressure now? Like every brew you make, it's got to be like award winning, or up to, do you have a standard now that you're trying to reach with everything?
I'd be lying if I said, no, I don't feel any pressure, but,
you put pressure on yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not coming from Dave. He's not like, get in there and make an award winning beer. No, right.
No, it's definitely, brewers pride themselves on their craft, you know what I mean? And to be constantly learning, evolving, adapting, is part of the gig. You know what I mean? I honestly, like, if we don't win anything, I don't care. Like, we use it as promotional. I mean, it's awesome to receive awards from things like that. Cause that's kind of what, you strive to make great beer, and to have it recognized is awesome. But, it's great for us because I think it's helping us build the brand, you know what I mean? Build the business. And, that's ultimately what's important. Right. So, yeah, I mean, those are the 3 that we enter. We'll enter them again this year and see what happens.
And that was, remind me so there was the blonde, is that right? That was one of them?
Yeah. So, for the 3 for the Arizona awards, it was blonde. So our Inside the Park Blonde Ale, our Trigo Suave, our Tangerine Wheat, and then
Porter.
Yeah, Sebastian's Porter. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. I was trying to remember the list here, because you went, the 3 for 3, and then silver medal was, I think, Oso, but they maybe had 4 or 5 awards that night, and then Grand Avenue Brewing had, I think, the bronze for Brewery of the Year, right, because they won 2 or 3 other categories too. And
yeah, and I think technically Oso won, but I mean, I guess they split it into the different locations because different locations.
Right.
So I think that's why ours got more points. But
we were also short one entry due to a mishap of mine. We were going to end our Cafe Oro Coffee Blonde. And as I was stocking them in the cooler, the tray kind of shifted and they fell down, and I crushed like about 6 cans.
I wasn't going to admit that, but
yeah.
Oh, man. So that's kind of.
So we could have been 4 for 4.
Maybe.
What was that? The guy who sat out the one day, then Lou Gehrig took over for him,
Exactly. Yeah. Because we did the same entries that we did for GABF, because it was right around the same time.
Yeah. And Cafe de Oro was your gold medal at GABF.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So now that you have all these like awards and acclaim and everything, is Oro Brewery or Brewing still the best brewery that you've never heard of? Because that was the story when we first met, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. That was kind of what you were going off of, and you kept telling people at beer festivals and stuff like that, like, "Oh, I've never heard of you guys." And is that still the case?
We still have that on our website, and it technically still is the case. We have a loyal following. It's a small but very loyal following. And we have been seeing more new people coming in, but we still have people from right here, maybe a couple miles away in Mesa. Hey, how long have you guys been here? Oh, 6 years. What? How come I never heard of you? So we're still working on that. But the awards and that and being able to use other outlets to promote ourselves, I think is finally starting to take hold a little bit.
Yeah, I was telling Dave before we started when I first came in that out at Copper State Beer Fest this past weekend, I ran into a guy who is very popular on Instagram around here. His name is Greg Visits Breweries. I don't know if you guys know him.
Greg.
And he asked me, he was like, "Do you know if Oro's here?" And I said I didn't think they were. I had just gotten there. I was kind of walking around, but the list that I didn't think you guys were, and you weren't. But that is kind of indicative, I think, of what you guys mean now to Phoenix area is that, man, I want to have an Oro beer. And have you guys kind of seen that on the rise in the last year now that you're winning all these awards? Your name is out there. People know you now. And like, not just necessarily customers that might come in here that you've never seen, but maybe accounts or whatever. Are you building new kind of relationships with like bars or bottle shops, stuff like that want your product?
We have probably, I'd say, maybe 5 to 7 kind of like really good, solid accounts. They don't always have us on tap. Going through winter is our busy season and going into spring training. So we definitely have been working our butts off this last, 3-4 months. I'd say ever since probably the news from GABF came out, just to try to stay ahead. You know what I mean? I kind of pride myself on having, not running out, and, having 14 taps with 5 fermenters can be difficult at times.
Yeah. You guys got to keep the brewery first and foremost, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of, we were just talking about this actually the other day, that we're kind of in a position going into spring training that we do have a well-stocked cooler. We're actually getting another walk-in cooler here in the next month and a half or so to kind of help us, because we also have to have a place to store it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that we're in a position to kind of take advantage of that. We've unfortunately have accounts that want, coffee. We don't sell coffee out of this door. We just sell it here on our own taps. 1, because it's just so popular. And 2, blonde is also in our top 3 sellers too. So, I mean, we brew a lot of blonde. It's probably the beer that we brew the most to keep up with both of those. But we also have people who ask about having blonde on, and we've unfortunately have to say no at times. And with other beers too, like, a lot of people want the hazy IPA. So I think that we've been working to get into that position. And now hopefully we won't have to tell people no. The great thing is that we haven't necessarily had to go and knock on doors to sell beer, which I think is a very good position to be in. So trying to take advantage of the people who have supported us, come in our tap room and actually enjoyed our beer, who want to have it at their bar. It's kind of cool to build those relationships and kind of expand on them too. So
it's good to have kind of use that law of rarity or exclusivity, right? Like,
yeah,
hey, if you want an Oro beer, you got to come here.
Yeah.
I might find it at Trevor's, just to name something off the top of my head every now and then, but I know I can always get it here, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and we kind of, we're trying to help build this community down here, and that's kind of important to us as well, is not only coming into our business, but experiencing what is going on down here is also important to us.
Yeah, what are some of the new things going in downtown? Obviously, BRI opened up about a year or 2 ago, and then is Pedal House still going in? Do you guys know?
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah, supposedly, I think they're maybe going to start construction near the end of this year now. It's been pushed back a couple times. There was some changes earlier on, and then I think they were also maybe having a supply constraint to be able to supply this place also. But we also have distillery coming in down the way. We talk up downtown all the time. I mean, we have Espiritu, we have Tacos Chivas, we have Buckhorn Vintage, we have all these award-winning places or Best of Phoenix places, Chupacabra, Cider Core. You can just keep naming them. So yeah, our thing, like Jesse said, to get them down here, experience our tap room and who we are, and take a walk down the street and take in the rest of the downtown.
Yeah, last I checked, Chupacabra is now trying to open up the brewery in the Desert Eagle space, right? After they closed, and I think I saw a post that a new arcade is going in down the street,
level 1. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's downtown Mesa. It's a destination already. It's becoming more and more so with every new thing that comes in, or kind of a revitalize of an old thing that might be down here. Mesa Arts Center is bringing in big shows all the time.
Yep. Nile Theater is constantly booking acts there.
Yeah, and it's one of, if not, I think, the most walkable downtowns.
Oh, absolutely.
In the Phoenix metro area. You know what I mean? So I think that people who haven't come down here before, they're kind of like surprised. Just the transformation I've seen since I got here, 5 years ago, has been astounding. You know what I mean? Seeing buildings fill in, seeing apartments go up, things like that. I think the Downtown Mesa Association and Mesa Merchants, Visit Mesa, they're doing a lot of good work down here.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're kind of the inspiration for a couple other downtowns, like downtown Glendale. I think is kind of using their motto, or their whatever
model.
Yeah, whatever model that Mesa's doing. And they're attempting to now do the same thing over the next decade with, we know Simple Machine is going in downtown Glendale, and that might just be the start of something that they've learned from watching you guys, or watching Downtown Mesa, or maybe learning some of the tricks of the trade.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that I really like about down here is that it's all very genuine. You don't have just a bunch of chain restaurants and stuff like that, and I think that's what also kind of makes it very special and unique as well.
Well, if somebody's never been down here, how would you describe Oro Brewing to them?
Authentic is the word that comes to mind. We have a very laid back, chill, tap room. Authentic is the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah, we just did a reel for the first time a little while ago, and that was basically what I was keying on, was authenticity. I mean, when you come here, you meet the neighbors from the neighborhood here, people working in the different places here, people working in our place are from the neighborhood. You get solid beer, great conversation, just genuine people.
That's kind of a good irony there, because you said you did a reel about authenticity, where reels are really like the most unauthentic thing there are, right? On social media, it's like they're mostly fake stuff. It's either a TikTok or something like that, and it's like, I don't believe that's real, but I actually would believe that's real coming out of your mouth there, Dave.
Well, thank you.
So I talked to Jesse about his start in brewing when we did the issue back in, I think I came in here in July or something. That issue came out in September and October. And you were saying how you got your start obviously at Santan on an award-winning team, and then you moved up to Wanderlust, and they do beers that kind of nobody else does, really. So isn't that kind of strange that's kind of an amalgamation of what you are doing now at Oro? Like, you're winning beer, you're winning awards, and you're doing all these styles that really no one else in Phoenix is doing. You look at your tap list, and it's like, the tangerine wheat, or the English beers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely have an affinity for English beers, and I'm glad that we get to produce them. It's not just my particular go-to, but I like all different sorts of. It's just whatever mood I'm in. But to do like Sebastian's Porter, like a true London brown porter that nobody really does or wants to do anymore. And then to win an award for it is really cool. We always have an ESB on, just kind of like a session beer. Right now we have an English mild on, which I think I've only seen 2 or 3 other breweries in the state do those.
Is that the old fashioned pub song? Is that what I'm looking at?
That one's our English style best bitter, but our Fiddler's Elbow is our English style mild. Okay, yeah. And for 3.3%, people are like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, you don't see that hardly at all.
And when they get it and it's dark, they're like, what is this? You know what I mean? So even one of our bartenders was like, what style is that? I was like, it's an English mild. He's like, yeah, I know. What style is that? I was like, it's English mild. He's like, I've never heard of that before. And I was like, yeah, you don't see them very often. So, and I think for to have the freedom to do those things is very rare in this industry. I've talked to a couple of people who have moved around from different breweries, and one of the main reasons that they settle in where they're at currently is because they have that freedom to do what they want to do. And, obviously it's not like I just tell Dave, hey, this is what we're doing. We'll chat it out and say, what are we missing up front? We'll talk to our bartenders, what are people asking for? And just try to, I think that's a main thing too, that I had to learn over time with this place is, you can't just pump out what you want and say, drink it. You know what I mean? You have to listen to your customer base. So, and, obviously sales numbers play into that. And just seeing how beers do, and then just kind of saying, probably not going to brew that one again, or man, yeah, definitely we'll brew that one again. We have, let's say we have 14 taps, 8 of them are cores, 6 of them are rotational. 2 of the cores though are Singularity, which is our single hop pale. So the hop changes from batch to batch. And then our Sour Child series, that one changes from batch to batch as well with different fruits and stuff like that. So yeah,
I was going to ask, is that more of a thing why other brewers don't do it? You think is that they don't have the freedom, or maybe are the ingredients hard to come by, or maybe they're just not seeing a demand?
I'd say that, maybe not seeing a demand is probably plays into it. I don't know. It's a tough question. I'd say that, a lot of people feel like you have to go by, okay, we need, these 6 styles, those are the styles that you have to have, and then just continue doing that. And they don't necessarily maybe not have the freedom, or maybe just don't want to do stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I think that for us, we just try to have something for everybody. And there's some beers up there that I don't care for, but I'll still drink, obviously.
Yeah, that was kind of the famous story that you told me, is that's how Trigo Suave came up about, right? Your customers kind of asked for it, and you were like, I don't really like that, or choose that beer. And then you end up winning, on the world stage for it.
Yeah. It was.
What's the next beer that'll be like that? What?
I don't know. We'll see this year. Yeah, it's ironic.
And it took us forever to actually do even a hazy IPA.
Yeah.
Because we're like, oh man, everybody's got a hazy. Everybody has one.
Well, it for me, it was, you remember Brute IPA? Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah, I don't think those are around
for
anymore,
like
right?
9 months, a year maybe. And hazy IPAs are starting to gain traction around that time. And I'm like, oh, it's just the next Brute IPA. You know what I mean? So we don't play into the trends. It took us a while for some arm twisting to brew a sour. And ours is a little bit different. We don't kettle sour. I particularly, and I've actually heard it from a lot of our customers that have ours, that it's very clean. Because to me, a lot of kettle sours, they have that like almost like stomach acid kind of flavor to them. And I just don't enjoy that. And it kind of gives me heartburn every time I have one. So ours, we actually use a yeast that's, dare I say, genetically modified. They basically they basically add a food enzyme.
With air quotes, by the way.
Yeah. So they take, traditional brewer's yeast, and they added a food enzyme, which when it ferments the sugars, it basically will produce alcohol and CO2 like normal yeast, but it also produces lactic acid. So basically what you're doing is you're just making a clean beer, putting it into the fermenter. We don't have to tie up the brew system for 3 days or what have you to actually have, lactobacillus eat away and sour the wort. So it's just like a regular brew day, and we just add the yeast the same as we would for any other beer and just let it go. The initial plan was to add fruit just to give it some balance. But after the first one, and I hadn't used this stuff before, and I have a friend that I went to brewing school with who has a brewery up in Portland. So I asked him about it because I'd done some research. I'm like, man, people keep asking for sours, and the equipment that we have isn't very conducive to doing a kettle sour. I don't really enjoy kettle sours and yada, yada, yada. So I was just chatting with him about it. And he's like, yeah, just give it a whirl and, see what it does for you. So I, toward the end of the fermentation on the first batch that we did, I think we're on batch five or six.
And you were talking about what the Sour Child series?
Sour Child series. Yeah. At the end, I was like, this is so sour that it needs back sweetening. You know what I mean? Like it needs some fruit in there. So yeah, it sells really well. It's about the middle of the pack. It's fun doing the different fruit combinations, another fruit beer, but it's always fun to jump up on top of a tank when you're purging it with CO2 and adding pulpy fruit to the top, getting splashed on you a little bit, splashing all over the bright tank and everything.
Or fruit that is like tomato paste.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did one with passion fruit and guava for summertime. And I had never used guava before. And it was like 45 pounds of like tomato paste.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting there like, we're like, what do we do?
You couldn't get it out of the container.
Because you're going into a funnel into like a 2-inch port opening, right? And you're bleeding CO2 so you don't get oxidation and everything. And you're just like, we both looked at each other like, I don't know what to do next. Just squeezed it all out as much as we could.
Are there YouTube videos that explain that? Because that's what I always go to if I need help, like
YouTube University,
editing my podcast or something.
Yeah, no, I went on the website that we ordered it from, and it said, definitely cut the whole corner off of the bag when you're going to add it. And I was like, all right. So in the future, when we're doing a fruit that I haven't used before, we're going to definitely pay attention to that.
Adventures in Brewing here at Oro. I like that. Maybe that could be the name of the beer the next time you guys,
Hey, that's right. The next sour. Yep.
cut the corner off and be like, why was the name that? So what's next for Oro? What do you guys have? What's 2023 look like for you guys? Festivals, more awards, that sort of thing?
Yeah, getting ready for Strong Beer coming up February.
Weeks, yeah.
So we're getting some new marketing stuff together for that.
What do you guys like to pour at Strong Beer? You've been out there before, right?
Yeah.
We normally do our 2 strong beers. We always have brought a third kind of light beer, and we're kind of kicking around the idea of maybe bringing a third, but so yeah, we do our 9-10% is what we bring out there. We always tend to have, like I said, the third one is like something that's lighter, and people appreciate that.
I think a lot of breweries like to do that.
Yeah, I think last year we brought our dry hopped cream ale, and that was probably our best seller because it's February in Arizona. It tends to be, 80 degrees,
Yeah, last year, it was a warm one last year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And we're excited for this one this year. It's in a really cool location, I think.
Salt River Field.
Yeah, the Salt River Fields location for Strong Beer, not out at Bellbank Park anymore, at least this year. And there you go. I mean, I won't get asked if Oro is here at the next beer fest, right?
Yeah, we're trying to do more of them. It was weird, obviously with COVID, and then coming out of that, we're actually getting approached by some people to do festivals now that they actually pay you for the beer. I didn't even know those existed. But the ones that we've done in the past have been for the guild, to support the guild.
Yep.
And we just kind of just use that like, hey, we could have made money off this keg, but we're giving it to them just to kind of help them. That's their main driver of funding, obviously. And all the work that they do is, incredibly important for us. So, it's worth it for us. So yeah, we'll probably do a couple festivals this year. We did the sour and sweet last year. That one was actually really fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was at the Clayton House in Scottsdale. It was kind of cool because it was a little bit more exclusive. There was like 8 to 12.
Yeah,
can't remember the exact number.
Somewhere in there, I think. Yeah, just under 13.
Yeah, it was like a smaller,
smaller beer fest. I think that was on the same day as our Best of the Valley festival. So I remember that well. We were kind of going up against that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that one was fun. It was indoors in the summer. It was a cool little venue, very intimate, kind of with face to face with people and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have our Dish Fest coming up at that same venue, Clayton House in Scottsdale. That's in March. we know that venue well. It's like you said, it's a little bit smaller, but there's some outdoor area, some indoor area. In August, obviously, you want to be indoors, so it was nice to have indoor space there, right?
Yeah. So some festivals this year.
Same awards.
That
we'll be entering. Yeah.
Are there any beers up there that like you think can win an award, but maybe you hold back because you've already kind of submitted what you know can win?
Yeah, I mean we're still gonna enter Coffee and Trigo because we really believe in those beers. They've always gotten good marks at every competition that we sent them into. So those will be continual entries. I think it's funny too because someone mentioned the other day like, oh, you want to do different ones because you don't want to win for the same ones, and I'm like, kind of want that repeatability. You know what I mean? So that plays into your the decision process for what you're going to enter. There's a couple up there that I've been wanting to enter, and we kind of use judges' notes and stuff like that from GABF and World Beer Cup. Sometimes you just don't get the right round of judges, and that happens. So
one of the things we kind of shied away from too was putting something out there that wasn't always available here.
Yeah,
a lot of that was one of the comments from Rob from the Guild early on, was that we had won with one of our beers that's just a regular beer as opposed to a special one-off or seasonal or something like that. So people can cruise in here and get an award-winning beer almost any day of the week.
Yeah, you guys aren't just creating beers specifically to enter into competitions, right? It's also to serve the customer that wants to be able to come in and be like, oh, that I read about that, or I saw that online. That one won an award at ACBA or GABF, whatever it is, and I got it in my hand now.
Yeah, and that definitely plays a big factor into what we enter as well is our core beers. We'll throw a seasonal here in there every once in a while. Like obviously Sebastian's Porter is a seasonal. That one got really good scores last year at GABF. Made the medal round, so that one was pretty close. I love that beer. And people are like, "Oh, you got to make it year round," and I'm like, "I'm going to end up with 14 year round beers." You know what I mean? And I don't want that to happen. You got to keep some of that creative outlet open for you as well. So
we don't want to get too stagnant.
No, got to change it up.
You got to use that kind of your model with what the Dark Sky model, where they brew like 300 different beers a year. Like you don't want to go that far, but you want to be able to still have, Trigo Suave is like always here, because people know that.
Yeah, and I mean Trigo always sold well, coffee always sold well, but man, since the medals, it's crazy. I mean, we keep up with it. I think we run out of coffee for a couple of days here and there. But now we just brewed blonde yesterday because I was like, gotta keep on top of it.
Yeah, whenever I bring in a group of friends and I get the award-winning beers here that I see up on the menu, and they're like, and my friends are like, what are you getting? You never drink that. I'm like, you have to when you come here.
Yeah. Yeah, and people love the coffee just because it's so much. I don't know. It's just like the essence of coffee. You know what I mean? And it's not to name beer names or breweries or anything, but I think that a lot of the coffee beers you get are kind of sweet, or they're dark. So when people get it and it's like this, amberish color, they're like, I ordered the coffee, but you're like, yeah, it's a blonde though.
The color throws them. But then all they have to do is take like one sniff in that aroma, and they're like, "Oh my god, it smells just like a cup of coffee."
For sure,
and it does.
and we have such a great relationship with Village. When we first, backstory on that beer we could do real quick. It was
what is Village, by the way?
Oh, Village Coffee Roasters.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
where are they at? They're in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's who we get our coffee from. It is why am I blanking? El Salvadorian. Coffee blend. So when we were first talking about doing something like that, we were kicking around ideas, me, Dave, and Chuck, about what we wanted to do, and they mentioned, I was like, coffee, okay, well, let's do like a stout or a porter. And I think we were going into spring trading. I think I had only been here since like the previous October, maybe like 5-6 months, something like that. And they're like, oh no, we want to do a coffee blonde. And I was like, that's interesting. I was like, cool. Yeah, let's do it. So we originally were doing it with Poor Joe. I don't even know if they're still around.
I don't either.
They were doing some coffee out of Cider Core before Cider Core was even open, I think. And so we're like, cool, right across the street, downtown Mesa, collaboration kind of thing. And it kind of just got too much for him to try and keep up with the business and everything like that. So I don't think he's in town anymore. But anyway, we had it for spring training. It was called First Crack of the Bat, First Crack of the Bat, opening of baseball and everything like that. So we did that. It sold really well. And then we just kind of went away from it. And I think maybe 6-8 months later, however long it was,
we did the Elevate Nepal one.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. We did the one with Elevate Nepal. They're out of Flagstaff and they used Nepalese. Is that the right word?
I think so.
Nepal?
Yeah.
Coffee beans, and they used a portion of proceeds to help, they
were building schools and
farming, just stuff like that. So we did that with them for a while. And then we were just talking about maybe bringing it on full time. And I think initially it was really important for us to work with a company that does their craft, right? That gets in raw beans, roast them themselves, and to have it with someone who was local. So we approached maybe 6 coffee roasters, and they were just all about it. You know what I mean? They were super pumped to do it. Actually came in with like a bunch of different types of coffee. So they were freshly roasted, freshly ground. So we're smelling them all. And we just eventually picked that one that we thought would pair the best with it, with the blonde ale. So we've been brewing it with that ever since. It's awesome because we'll give them a ring. We're actually going to transfer some more on Monday, this next Monday. We'll give him a ring here in the next day or so.
Already have.
He's on it. So
what is it about coffee that lends itself to brewing inside beer?
I don't know. I mean, we all love coffee just by itself, but I think that with that blonde and that coffee together, it just brings out these notes of like, to me, it's like caramel and just like these really rich coffee notes, but you still have that balance of, it finishes like a beer, and
yeah, it actually brings out notes of the coffee that you don't normally get. It's very interesting combination. Yeah,
so we'll give them a ring. They'll basically roast it the day before we need it, grind it the day we pick it up, and then it goes into hot water. We do a batch of cold pressed coffee or cold brew coffee, whatever we're going to call it. Let that sit for 3 days and rack it on top of beer. So I mean, it is super fresh, and I think that makes a world of difference for sure.
I like you brought up the spring training a couple times, because every time I've come in here, I think spring training has been canceled, like the last 3 seasons, right? And I remember talking to Dave the first time I met him, and he's just like, we can't win here. Spring training is getting canceled, and that used to be such a big driver here in downtown Mesa, but that's probably not the case anymore, right?
Well, I mean, we'll see this year.
It's still major, obviously, but it's not like the most important month of the year, really.
It is. It's kind of like our Christmas still.
Yeah,
it should be if it remains like it was.
Yeah, I mean, that period of time pays for June, July, and August. The slowest months out of the year. So we'll see this year. I'm expecting it to be kind of nuts. To be honest with you, 2019 we had construction down here, so I mean everything was open still,
sure,
but there was
we had barricades
and people we all, like, you look at something, you're like, I don't want to go down there, like there's construction everywhere and it just looks like a mess. So we had that in 19. 20 we obviously had COVID. Last year we had the lockout. So, I mean, we still had what was it, like a week and a half?
Yeah, it was maybe like 10 days or something like that. Yeah, it really didn't do anything.
And we had some business those days, but those are mostly people who were already in town, because all the people who planned on traveling out here obviously changed their flights or changed their hotels and stuff like that. So, we'll see this year. This year, knock on wood, will hopefully be a full-fledged actual spring training. We can see what it's like.
I know. it'd be great.
I'm excited for it because Oro is one of those places that you got to come to for spring training, after the game, because you guys kind of have later hours, right? It's usually like a 3:00 opening during the week and 11. Are you guys open at 11 or noon on the weekends?
At noon.
At noon, okay.
Yeah, and we usually do expand our hours for spring training, so we'll open earlier and maybe stay open a little bit later.
Sure.
But we definitely probably Tuesday through Friday we'll be opening a lot earlier.
Awesome. We'll get down here to Downtown Mesa. Check out Oro Brewing if you haven't before. Jesse, Dave, thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
I know you guys are busy on brewing and everything, so I really appreciate you making time for me.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.